So, this video is going to be the story of kind of how my probe came to be. It's going to be long. There's going to be a lot of editing. I'm probably going to make some mistakes, get some videos in the wrong order and stuff, but I'm going to try and really take my time editing this video. A lot of people have kind of asked like what I went through to get the probe to the point that it's at right now. So I'm going to be including some videos of when it was on the stock turbo, failures that I had with some pictures, the different setups that I had on the car, the different power it made, the quarter mile times that it ran at that power level, the mods that made the biggest difference in the quarter mile, that kind of thing. So, yeah, just I guess stay tuned and I'm going to get to explaining here. Yeah, that ain't good. Little brake boost. So, with the probe, I started off, I had a 88 Thunderbird Turbo Coupe that was on an HX35 and 22 pounds of boost, made 380 wheel, somewhere around there. It was like, I think 384 and 400 something foot-pounds of torque, 424, I think, foot-pounds of torque. I can't remember, but anyway, I had that car, and I came across this ad for like 4 years on Craigslist for this probe in Clarkston, Washington, and I was, getting tired of the Thunderbird always breaking. My youngest son's mom and I had broke up. I was trying to get a place to stay, didn't have a job at the time, so I had to get rid of a car. And at the time, I just had my T-Bird, and that was it. So I had a little bit of money saved up and some stuff for trade and whatnot. So I hit up the ad, and the guy basically said, just come get it out of my field. Nobody's going to buy it, so just come have it. I got the title, it's yours. So drove down to Clarkston with a friend of mine with a truck and a trailer, picked up the car. It had been sitting in a field for like a year and a half with the window down, so the interior was super moldy. And he said it was blown up. Well, he threw a battery in it, and it fired right up after sitting for that long and then died. And I was thinking in my head, that's not blown up, that's a vacuum leak. So I started looking at stuff, and I noticed that one of the intercooler pipes has popped off. And I didn't say anything because I didn't want him to renege on our deal. And I was just like, cool, loaded the car up, came back to Spokane, ripped the interior completely out of it, gutted the car, cleaned the seats with some bleach solution and stuff. So it was just the front seats. That was it. I ripped everything but the dash, door cards, and the front seat out because it was all moldy. Threw the intercooler pipe back on the car. It fired up, drove perfectly. The only thing that was wrong is it overheated. And so I changed the thermostat. That was it. Then it started running like crap, put an O2 sensor in it, coolant temp sensor, drove the car for a year with pretty much no problems. Ended up selling my T-Bird, which I regret to this day. I loved that car. I'll never probably have another one like it. It was so nice and clean and just well taken care of. But so at that point, I got another probe, a primer one that was bone stock, and started daily driving that, and decided to start modifying the probe to see what I could get out of it. So it was an open down pipe. I did a cone filter conversion, got rid of the stock air box. I did, God, I love these bikes. I did a boost controller and a Walbro 255, turned it up to 12 pounds, car made 170 wheel, 220 wheel torque, just like my 626. Spanked on some people, was pretty happy with the car. Came across a chipped ECU locally for like $20 that somebody had for years. Nobody was buying them because nobody in my city built probes. They hadn't listed it, interstate to where other people could buy it. So I bought a chipped ECU, a probinator ECU, and threw it in the car and turned it up to 15 pounds, and ended up having a melted piston from an injector failure. One of the injectors was plugged up, and I ended up melting a piston. So I pulled it apart. Couldn't find turbo pistons, so I threw in non-turbo cast pistons. That was, off of eBay. That was the best I could do, money wise. So threw the eBay pistons in it with the eBay head gasket. First time I hit boost after I broke in the engine, it popped the head gasket. So I changed the head gasket out to a Felpro in the Walmart parking lot in about 3 hours. First time I hit boost after that, the eBay pistons broke ring lands. I was just over it. So went to the junkyard, grabbed a set of actual Mazda non-turbo F2 cast pistons, threw them in the car. Car ran perfect. Turned it up to 16 pounds of boost. Had the head ported while it was off the car. The second time, because I needed to the head was warped. That's right. So it blew the head gasket again, and I needed to take the head off. So I had it ported, and then put it back on the car. Put an adjustable fuel pressure regulator on it. And the car did 218 wheel horsepower and 299 foot-pounds at 16 pounds of boost on the stock turbo and intercooler, which, as far as I know, is a record. And then right after that, I started heavily racing the car. I'll put some videos in here. So after I had blown up like 7 VJ11 stock turbos, because with the extra compression to run the same boost level, they were spinning another 30,000 RPM, and they would just grenade. I'll put some pictures in here of some of the blown the turbo failures I always had. It always breaks the shaft and destroys the compressor wheel. Usually they explode. Honk it out. So after like 7 stock turbo failures, I put a Chrysler or a Dodge Daytona Garrett 50 trim turbo on it. They were a 4248 AR 50 trim TB03 44 was the part number for them. And I ran that at like 12 pounds of boost. Car made 230 wheel horsepower and 250 foot-pounds of torque at the wheels. Beat some decently quick cars on it. I got beat by like a supercharged Tiburon, but I beat an upgraded KL4S GTI on like 22 pounds with a tune. I beat a K Pro full bolts on RSX, just a couple of other decently fast cars. But the turbo was pretty tired when I threw it on, and over the course of 5-6 months, it slowly died. So that guy with the Tiburon had a turbo laying in his garage, and it was like $100 eBay T04 B50 trim that he had rebuilt with Garrett internals because he was originally going to turbo his Tiburon and ended up putting a supercharger on it. So I bought the turbo off of him for $80, thinking it'll last until I get a quality turbo on the car. So I get to a point where I'm ready to put the turbo on. I put the turbo on the car, and it's immediately on like 6-8 pounds of boost, making the same power, it feels like, as the turbo, the 50 trim Garrett did on 12 pounds. Which is very possible that it did, but I never dynoed it at that boost level. So I started turning it up, and I turned it up to 16 pounds of boost. And the car started really getting a lot fast. It felt a lot faster than it did at 230 wheel. And at that point, I was on stock ECU as well as stock 330cc high impedance factory injectors. And I didn't. That's not nearly enough fuel system for the amount of boost I was running, and so I bumped the fuel pressure up to 55 psi base fuel pressure and was getting 400 something cc out of those injectors. And at that point, the car did 262 wheel horsepower and 271 foot-pounds of torque. And it did a 1360 at 106.71 miles an hour, I think. Well, okay, actually, at first I went out and my first pass was like a 16.0 at 100 because I was still stock suspension, open diff. The car was not performing the way that I had hoped it was. The torque steer was wild. I was having to pedal. It was wheel hopping. Ended up running a best that day of 14.8 at 102. So I'm getting used to the car. I'd never taken it to the track at that point. So, goddamn armpit itches. It's fucking weird. I think it's this new deodorant. It's fucking irritating. Pardon my French. Anyway, so at this point, I'm like, okay, the car is making the power. I got to get it to hook. So I ripped the car down, just like tore the engine down, or not the engine, tore the tranny out, and ripped the suspension and everything out, and then tore the tranny apart, installed an M factory helical limited slip differential, and then right after that, I did Yanaka coilovers in the front, and then aligned the car, and then put on my 5 Ziggin FN01RC wheels with, at the time, I didn't have the Michelin, I had Kumo Extas on it, 225, 50, 16s. So I go to the track, and first hit, the car goes 14.0 at 105. And I'm like, okay, this thing is leaving now. So that was the best that the car did up until the evening time. I go back out, I just do a quick run, scrub the tires, I leave, and immediately the car feels better. No wheel hop, I slip the clutch just right, goes up to the top of third, bang second gear, spins for a second, and then hooks. Bang third gear, perfect shift, bam, fourth gear, perfect shift, run it out, and I'm like, that's it. I hit my 13-second goal. And I run up to the ticket booth, and the lady, the first thing that she says to me, and I knew I'd done a 13, she says, "You're gonna need a helmet." Hands me my slip, 1398 at I think it was 10 1398 at 105 or 106. So at this point, you know, I'm enjoying the car. It's quick. It's beating some pretty quick cars, full bolt-on Focus ST, that kind of thing. I mean, it's doing really well for what it is. And I go to Streetcar Takeover, 1320 videos there. They're here in Spokane at Spokane County Raceway. I'm like, here's my chance. I get to put this car on the map. I'm the first run of the day, first row race against a B16 Turbo Civic, and I gapped his ass. And 1320 took a picture of it, which I'll put in right here. So after that pass, I pull up to the ticket booth and I notice that the car is down a cylinder. And I'm like, what in the hell now is going on? Car's been running perfect. So I pull over, start tearing the car down to do a compression test. I have to pull the wastegate off because it's in the way of the spark plugs and shit. So I'm doing that. 1320 comes up and interviews me. Right as I do the cylinder, I'm turning the car over to check cylinder 3. And 1320 walks up, asks if they can interview me, says they've never seen a front wheel drive probe racing. It's pretty cool. All of them are pro mods that they see, whatnot, blah, blah, blah. Gap the Civic, that was awesome. So I'm talking to him and I look at the compression tester for cylinder 3 and it's at 0. And I'm like, hold up. So I make sure it's tight, go turn the car over again. Compression tester is still at 0. Broke ring lands. Injector failed. I was running, 330cc injectors at probably 100% duty cycle the whole time. Like they were static. So eventually it failed. And so I'm telling 1320, they're interviewing me and they're like, so what do you think it's going to run? I'm like, well, it just broke pistons, so it's not going to run anything. Most embarrassing shit ever. First pass, car blows up after I had raced it 100 times before that with no problems. So I tear the car down again, throw new non-turbo pistons in it. Mind you, never pulling the block out of the car throughout the whole life of this car. After the second engine, block stayed in the car. Just rehone, new bearings and rings, open up the gap, new head gasket, slap it together. So at that point, I put a DIY PMP on the car. Or no, I did not actually. I bumped fuel pressure up to 60 pounds trying to band-aid it, and I was taking a buddy of mine for a ride, and the wastegate reference blew off. Car went 30 pounds boost. I felt it take off in third gear. All of a sudden, tires start squealing in third gear, and I'm like, uh-oh. Look at the boost gauge just in time to see it peg out at 30 psi, and let off the gas. Boo! Huge cloud of smoke behind the car. It was too late. Right when I let off the gas, it broke ring lands on cylinders 1 and 3, both of them. So I'm like, motherfucker, and my buddy had been riding with me another time and I blew the turbo up. So every time he had rode with me at that point, the car had blown up. And I was super pissed because it was ripping. So at this point, I'm like pretty much done with the car. So I just like decide I'm done with the car, whatever. Well, a friend of mine at the time was building an MX6, and he had put a DIY PNP ECU from DIYAutotune.com, which is basically a micro squirt on like MS2 firmware, I think. It just, you tune it with Tuner Studio, same as Mega Squirt, but it's like a little more rudimentary and it's plug and play, so you don't have to wire it into the car. So I do that, and I'm on the 330cc injectors, and we just cannot get the car to run right. And at this point, I'm just like so tired of this damn car, and I just want to be done with it, you know. But I freaking just like tuned it, got it on 18 pounds of boost, like injectors maxed out, and broke ringland again. And at this point, I'm just like, I don't know why I keep doing this, but I'm going to just slap new pistons in it again. More non turbo pistons, do it in there again. And decided to do 550cc injectors. I had them laying around, RX7 Turbo 2, red top, well, purple top, 550cc, high impedance. So I throw those in, start tuning the car, doing really good, was super happy with it. And decided to try and learn how to tune myself. Had the car in 18 pounds of boost, 18 degrees of timing on pump gas. Took it out, did a hit. Car backfired a couple of times, went real lean. I was like, okay, added some fuel. Car was ripping. I was like, hell yeah, man, this thing is good. Get back home, notice the car's down a cylinder. And I'm like, really? But it's like intermittent. Like it'll be down and then it'll be good. Then it'll be down, then it'll be good. Do a compression check. I'm at like 170, 170, 170, 105. So I'm like, all right, broke ring lands again, but it's still got compression. Track day coming up. Dock and Dominator event, or no, it was DTP Race Wars first. Said, fuck it. I'm just going to turn the boost up, turn up the timing, take that bitch out. It wasn't blowing oil out or anything at this point because it hadn't blown the oil rings out. It was just a compression ring land, and it was cracked. It hadn't broken yet. So I turned it up 20 pounds of boost, 20 degrees of timing. Threw in this stuff, race gas ultra concentrate the first time, which, as anybody knows, I'm religious about using that stuff now. It works awesome. I've done over 330 wheel horsepower on it with no failure. And I take the car out. First pass, it does 13.6 at 107 again. Then it does a 13.4 at 108, I think. And then final pass of the day, I fucking tear it up. I'm going 13.1 at 107. I believe was, it might have been a little more than 107. I got the time slip. I'll put the time slip in here. Sorry, I'm not very good at this. So at this point, you know, the car is blowing oil out of the breathers. It's the ringland's busted, but I've got a personal best out of it. Right after that, the next weekend from DTP Race Wars, Dock and Dominator are coming to Spokane, and they're holding an event. It's like I think a $50,000 race for all the people in the greater Spokane area to come and try and beat Dock and Dominator. And one of our local guys almost did it. He fucking knocked the tires off, and I think Doc got him, but he had it. He would have won if he had done a clean pass. But anyway, so they have the test and tune portion of it, and I'm like, you know what? This car is already blown up. What do I have to lose? Turn it up to 22 pounds of boost. Add 5 degrees of timing. 25 degrees of timing. Fuck it. Take the car out. My buddy's filming. I'm going for a 12-second pass. That's been my goal with the car since the beginning. I want a 12-second pass. And when I did my 1394 at 106.1 on street tires, I threw radials on the car right after that for the first time. I was still untuned, stock injectors. Car did 13.6 at 106.71. Then I kept the radials on the car. when I did the 13-1 at 107, I want to say. So I take the car out, first pass, 1287, 109.55. That was it. I was like, 12-second pass, 2 broken fucking pistons. Let's get it. So it's starting to cool off in the evening, and I'm like, you know what? Car is still running. I'll still be able to drive it home. Let's just go make one more pass. One more pass. Just give it everything she's got. And so I turned it up. Or no, I didn't turn it up because I'd had a crap 60 foot on that first pass. It was like a 2.2 60 foot. So I was like, all right, let's see what she can do. So I get up 4,500 RPM, slip the clutch out, car leaves, woo, through first, bam, bang second. I'm like, here it is. This is a way better 60 foot. Nail every shift and you're good. Bam, bam, no flaws, perfect shifts, run it through the traps. Can see that I'm at a higher speed, a higher RPM than the last time. I'm like, it left harder, it top ended harder. That was it right there, personal best. Run back to the ticket booth, grab my slip, 1260, 111.23. So I'm like, hell yeah. Well, at that point, my tuner hits me up and he's like, hey, he's got a 7M GTE Auto Mark 1 Supra. And he wanted a micro squirt to run his tranny. He's like, I have a legit Mega Squirt too. He said, and I'll make you a deal. I will build you a jumper harness to make it plug and play, and I will assemble it for you and install it on trade for your Micro Squirt module, because he got it for a song and a dance, like $100. So he wasn't into it anything, and even though it was worth more than mine, it was easy for him to trade, give me an upgrade, get him the Micro Squirt he needed, and he's only out $100, and then I'm getting a better unit. And I'm not into it any more than I'm into the DIY PMP. So we did that. That opened up a whole bunch of options for me. And I was like, all right, I'm going to rebuild the car one last time. This is it. But I'm going to do turbo, lower compression, stronger hypertectic pistons this time with skirt reinforcement, not cast. And I'm going to go balls to the fucking wall. So I did that. I had a 12 PSI spring in the wastegate and ended up turning the car up on 22 pounds, 17 degrees of timing and pump gas. It did 294 wheel horsepower and 355 torque. Threw in the race gas ultra concentrate, turned it up to 26 pounds, same 17 degrees of timing. Car did 329 wheel horsepower, 371 foot-pounds of torque. And I took the car back out after that to the track with launch control and flat shift, but unfortunately at that point my TO4B was starting to die after 4 years of a $100 turbo getting used at more than its recommended boost the whole time. And I kept getting lag issues. I would shift out of first into second and the car would fall completely out of boost and then have to re-spool, and it took forever for it to spool back up. So I was getting like 2.5, like I was getting like 2.2, 2.1 60 foots, but my quarter mile was like low 13s all night. And then I ended up getting 1280 at 109 again, which I have the slip right here. And then right after that, I got my best trap speed. I got a personal best trap speed, but I just was trying to get used to launch control. My radials are kind of old and shitty, and I just couldn't get the car to stay in boost for the first to second and second to third shift. I don't know if it was just because I wasn't shifting fast enough. I think I was shifting at too low of an RPM, and I never used the flat shift except for this pass, which was a 1294 at 112, which was my best personal best trap speed. And I flat shifted fourth gear. I didn't flat shift I flat shifted second and fourth. I didn't flat shift third. Otherwise, I might have actually got a better pass because it fell out of boost hard in third, which is what killed my ET, but then it picked back up and that's when it ran out the back half. But So yeah, after that, I decided I was going to go and do a top speed run in the car, because at this point, before that last, before I did the 330 wheel horsepower before the dyno tune, ripped the tranny out, um, put Ford Probe LX V6 gear set in it with the final drive, bolted the final drive ring gear onto the M factory, put it back in the car. That gave me much longer gearing, um, which theoretically put the top speed of the car up over 180 miles an hour. I knew I had the power to do 170, so I decided I'm going to go out, try and set the Probe world record for the fastest top speed attained in a first gen Probe GT. So I go out, I'm running the car up. I get to 130. It's running through real fast, hits 140. It's flying through 140. I had an HKS clone eBay filter on the car. What I did not know is that the filter was removable and that the nut was on the inside of the filter, and that there was a little like twist screw on the outside with a plastic cap that you tightened it with so you could remove the filter material and clean it. Didn't know this. Well, at some point the nut had gotten loose and it finally backed its way off, sucked it into the turbo, and completely shaved off all the inducer blades on the turbo, which if I can find a picture, I will insert it right here. So at this point, I'm like, I'm not putting another T3 frame turbo on it. Like, I don't want to do that. So at that point, I had a Halstead HX35 laying around, a stock one. And I was like, okay, time for an HX35. I'm going all out with it. So I left it on the map for the 330 wheel horsepower tune, and I just decided I would turn the whole set up until the air fuel ratio was good, and just leave it there, making around the same power just on the other turbo, and just be pretty much untuned for that turbo, but at a safe AFR. Maybe drop a couple degrees of timing off it, whatever. Throw the Hall set on, go to make boost. First time, turbo don't make boost. It was blown. Bad bearings. The compressor wheel was hitting the housing and it wouldn't work. So I was like, you know what? I'm a single dad. I mean, I've been working. I got money saved, whatever. I was like, but I don't want to spend, hella money on a name brand turbo, but I don't want to throw another, eBay turbo on it and push it that hard again because I was playing with fire. I was like, this is the last engine I'm doing. I want to do it right, do this car right so that I don't have to worry about it. So I hop on the forums and I'm like looking up rebuild kits and stuff. And I get on the Dodge forums and all of them are like, EMUSA HX35's work. I'm running mine 35 pounds for 2 years now. It was like $250, way cheaper than Hall set. I know I got 3 friends running them now. They're all doing good. And I'm like, all right, I'll get one of those. So I hop on. I'm looking at EMUSA basic cast wheel 56 mil 8 blade HX35s. And I come across one that's the same as the rest of them, except for it's got a billet wheel and it's only $20 more. And I'm like, all right, so I buy it, $290. I'm like, it's probably going to blow up the first time I hit over 15 pounds of boost, but at 15 pounds, it might make as much power as the old setup did at 26, and I can just run it like that for a while and call it good. So I put it in the car, go out, hit it on 12 pounds on wastegate pressure, and car spikes 25 pounds, blows the wheel tires off in third gear, most power I've ever felt, hands freaking down. And I'm like, oh, okay, something's wrong here. So I start checking over everything and realize that when I backed the boost controller off, it just unscrewed the cap of the boost controller from the shaft and didn't actually back the boost controller off. So I actually pulled the cap off, backed the boost controller all the way out, got it to 12 pounds, started turning it up from there. Started with 15 pounds, then 18 pounds, emailing back and forth with my tuner. Turned it up, got it to 20 pounds, like 20, 21 pounds. And that's where the car sits right now. I bumped fuel pressure from 50 or from 45 to 56 PSI. And that dropped my duty cycle from like 85 to 70% duty cycle at 20 pounds of boost at an 11.2, 11.3 air fuel ratio. So I've still got some room to grow, maybe 1 or 2 more pounds of boost before I'm at 85% duty cycle, and don't want to really go much further than that on these 550s in the Race Gas Ultra. But I am at the point now where we're just getting it cleaned up on 20 pounds, have that part of the map really nice, and then I will, start turning it up from there, and that's going to be the future videos coming up. So I understand that this is a super long-winded video, and if you made it this far, good on you. I appreciate the support. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and stay tuned because we're going to get wild here soon. Oh, one final note that I forgot to mention, and that is this eBay HX35, the EMUSA one, it is performing wonderfully, but I don't expect it to have much longevity. So remember earlier in the video when I mentioned that HX35 was blown? Well, I dropped it off at Advanced Diesel to have a new center cartridge put in it. I wanted a legit cartridge. I don't want to accidentally buy a Chinese one, whatever. Took it to a diesel shop, had them do it. Well, I'm sitting there thinking about it, and I'm like, why would I have them rebuild the same turbo that I already have on my car as a backup? If I'm going to go that far with it, I might as well upgrade. So what I did was I had them build me a 62 millimeter extended tip technology HE351CW HX35 hybrid. So that is now, instead of a 56 mil turbo, that's a 5686 wheel inducer exducer. This is now a 6289 62 mil HX or HE351C compressor wheel, and they just machine the housing out to fit the wheel. It's a 7x7 wheel, I think is what they call these. And so yeah, whenever it is that I blow up that eBay one, that monster's going on there. And the eBay one is 54 pounds a minute. This one is capable of 65 pounds a minute. So it'll max out every stock component of this car, even though this HX35 probably will anyway. But yeah, so thank you for watching, and hope you enjoyed.